It's the Wildcard Podcast. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the OnWeb Studios in Phoenix, Arizona. My name's James Mackey alongside Chance LeBlanc, Kurt Arnold, Preston Grace, and Jason Cousineau. You are listening to the second episode of the Wildcard Podcast.
Woo!
Today we have a fairly jam-packed show. We're talking basketball, we're talking baseball, we're talking football for the first time since we started. It's only been one episode, but who cares? And of course, we're talking about the NHL. And just to add a little bit of spice, we're also going to talk about the TGL.
Golf. We
So
like golf.
We're going to start the show hot with kind of what's been big news here in the Valley. Last night, Kevin Durant made his debut for the Phoenix Suns against the Charlotte Hornets
Legendary.
in Charlotte.
It's beautiful.
In which he posted 23 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. That is the second most points in notable debuts after a trade for the Phoenix Suns. The first being Charles Barkley against the Clippers in 1992 with 37 points, 21 rebounds, and 8 assists.
Chuckster.
Gentlemen, what did we think of KD's debut last night?
How many minutes did he play?
27.
Wow.
I think that's what's most important.
First game back in months. Played
That's
27
what I was
minutes.
shocked about. I thought they were going to keep them under 20, especially because they were pretty much up 10 most of the game. But, I mean, he looked effortless. First game back from injury.
I was going to say,
effortless.
watching the game, like it seemed like the Suns were honestly not even playing like as hard as they could. Like it just seemed so effortless. And Book has been looking shaky. It's the first couple of games back from the All-Star break, and he finally looked like really comfortable out there. Ayton 16 on 7 of 10. Booker 37 on 15 of 26. Durant 23 on 10 of 15. Like it was effortless and efficient. And I know it was against the Hornets, but like it was just beautiful to watch, honestly.
It just takes so much stress off of Chris Paul now, too, because we've seen, he's aging.
11 assists, though, last night.
All he needs to do is pass the ball. He can score his 2 points like he did last night, but he just has to pass the ball and do what he does. Mm-hmm. And this team it's looking like a force right now.
Something we talked about last week, and I was super adamant about it, and I think in talking with our audio engineer for the show who does away radio for the Suns, talking with him, my mindset when it comes to trades is something like you trade and you build for the future, like the Arizona Coyotes have done during the NHL Trade Deadline, which we will again get to here in just a little bit. I think, I'm not going to lie, I turned on this game last night. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to watch this. And then about 6 minutes into the first quarter, I fell asleep. I was conked out. My mom walks out. She goes, wakes me up. She goes, I thought you had to watch the game for the podcast. I said, well, I was watching the game. She goes, no, you were snoring. I was like, well, I was watching the game.
You're one of those sleepers.
Yeah, I didn't really see
Denies
much of the
you're
game, so I'm going to take your word for it that he looked pretty dominant and he looked like he's ready to build something special.
Yeah, the one thing I took away, though, at the end of the game, when they put him in with 2 minutes left, then they were dribbling out the ball. Katie and they dapped each other up, and they just had this smirk when they looked at each other like, yeah, we're going to win this thing. And
I want to see him play a good
I don't
game.
know. Yeah, and that's why
Okay.
this weekend's very exciting. Like 3 huge
Come
games.
Sunday.
Chicago, a team that is playing very well in the East and trying to get a play-in spot. They play the Mavs on Sunday. We know the whole story with them, that rivalry brewing, and they have Kyrie Irving, so that's going to be a hell of a game. And then I believe Tuesday or Wednesday they play the Kings, and they're 2 games up on them for the next seeding. So these are 3 very big
Mavericks on
games.
Sunday.
That Hornets was just a small sample size of this rotation.
Yeah.
And
The Hornets are awful.
We get to see a familiar foe in Pat Bev with the Bulls, and Pat Bev's got a big.
I was going to
history
add
with the
notes on
Suns.
Pat
He
Bev.
loves him some Kevin Durant.
I did not add notes on Pat Bev, but from what I've seen for the Bulls, again, not really following a lot of Bulls basketball, Pat Bev has made a difference in that lineup since joining.
Yeah, he has.
I believe it's nicknamed
Not a
the
fan.
Pat Bev effect. Is that
No.
That's the correct
Absolutely.
term?
Zach LaVine has been on one also. He should have been a Laker.
It's about time. I thought he was going to get traded, but I guess Pat Bev's kind of getting him to just lock in because Pat Levine's been sort of just
Going through the motions.
Going
really.
through the motions. Yeah, he's been kind of slow this year compared to what everybody expects from him, especially with DeMar.
Yeah.
But
Bulls didn't make any moves at the trade deadline, which was very surprising because it seemed like they were the ones who needed to make them trade the most.
and with
They-
Lonzo
yeah.
out, I think they're going to rely a lot on Pat, and they could fight for a spot. They could fight for that play-in spot in the East.
Speaking of the Lakers, LeBron is out for 3 weeks with a foot
At least
issue.
3 weeks.
At least 3 weeks. I don't know what that means for basketball, but I know that.
Well, missing the playoffs.
Yeah, we talked last week about how LeBron broke Kareem's record and then just kind of disappeared for the Lakers. And I guess this makes sense as to why he would have done that. Something else we want to talk about in basketball is Arizona State. Chance, you asked to have this conversation this week after beating the number 7 ranked Wildcats on a last-second three-pointer from, I think it was farther than half court.
As he came,
Shot heard around the world.
They knock down Arizona, and they come into, you said, 2 big games this weekend. Walk us through kind of what we should be looking for in those games.
Go Devils.
So that U of A game, obviously one of the biggest rivals in college sports. First time beating them in Tucson since 2019. Absolutely stunning. I was losing it when he made that shot. So they go into UCLA tonight, number 4 team in the country, I believe, and they're on an 8-game winning streak, so they're on a burner. They're 13-point favorites. I'm interested to watch this game tonight because obviously I know Bobby Hurley will have the boys ready, but there is obviously, it's real in sports, the emotional hangover of beating, a number 7 team in the country. It's your biggest rival on a buzzer beater. So I'll be interested to see how they collect themselves tonight in a huge matchup. If they split with UCLA and USC on Saturday, I believe they have a great shot to be in March Madness, and they still will have to make some noise in the Pac-12 tournament. But no, it's definitely intriguing because they've had some losses to Washington State, Oregon. I thought they should have won at home. And, it's just crazy how one win can just, turn your whole season around, especially this late in the season, which is, different. You don't see that very often.
Yeah, momentum has shifted.
I think
Definitely.
Bobby Hurley also, this is the one game he's had marked on the calendar tonight for, I guess you could say, since they last played, because they were coming out strong. They were competing with UCLA. They were limiting Jaime Jaquez and Tiger Campbell and all those big names UCLA has, and then they sort of fell apart. And a lot of people, and that's when they started to decline really big into the season. And they fought their way back. That huge win against U of A, just, the confidence skyrockets coming into tonight. But they got to be ready. They can't let UCLA play their basketball. They got to come out vicious. Bobby's got to, really just coach the hell out of this game.
I think just to reiterate on that, I think the thing with, this ASU team, and if they make it, I might have said this before, but this is a team I would not want to face. Like at 11 or 12 seed, this is a team I would not want to play. They're top ranked in defense in the Pac-12. Offense has always been shaky, but in March, defense is what wins you games. You'll get fast break opportunities, you'll get your open threes, but if you're locked down on defense and you're a dangerous 11-12, anything can happen in March.
And these next 2 weeks, we kind of have been planning our shows out. Next week is, I think we're going to look at, we talked about conference tournaments ahead of Selection Sunday on March the 12th. And then that following week, we will debut what we think will be brackets.
Yeah, there's 2 more games left in the season?
Of our predictions for brackets. We will have missed the first 4 by recording date, which is Thursday, but we will still kind of catch up on where we're at, and it will be an interesting next couple shows. I've said this time and time again, and this is the philosophy I've lived by since I was a little kid. This is the only time I care about college basketball is during March Madness because it's the most fun time to watch basketball. So these next 2 shows, be sure not to miss them right here on Spotify and hopefully soon Apple Podcasts and maybe a couple other places we don't know yet. But the next couple will be a couple of good shows, and I think we're all looking forward to them. We're going to pivot now into the NHL. Here we sit at about almost 3:15 p.m. on Thursday, just under 24 hours until the March 3rd, 3 p.m. Eastern NHL Trade Deadline. And boy, oh boy, has it been a week for the NHL. Last week we talked about Jacob Chychrun, Patrick Kane, both players we knew would be traded at some point.
What a call on the Kane to the Rangers.
That was the only team. Cal Davidson said to their pregame while they were here to play Coyotes that was the only team he waived his no move clause for was New York.
Wow.
So I believe he said in media today with the Rangers that after they got Tarasenko, they were like, oh, it's not going to happen, but somehow they made it work. The Coyotes were able to retain half of Patrick Kane's salary and in return received a 2025 third-round pick from the Rangers. So shout out to Arizona Coyotes legend Patrick Kane for his time here. We appreciated it. It was great. Jonathan Quick saw a move that I don't think I've ever seen before. The Kings of Los Angeles dumped him to Columbus in a deal for both Jonas Korpisalo, who's a goaltender, and Vladislav Gavrikov, who has been on the trade block for a while. In return, Columbus got Jonathan Quick, a 2023 first-rounder and a 2024 third-rounder. And just earlier today, it was reported that Jonathan Quick was turned over to Las Vegas. So that was a quick turnaround for Columbus. They promised him they would trade him to a contender, and they did just that. Last week on the show, Chance talked about Garnett Hathaway and Dmitry Orlov being scratches for the Capitals. In less than half an hour after we wrapped recording, I believe they were dealt.
That is correct. They were. And I'm also looking at, I think, almost every single person besides Tom Wilson, Backstrom, Ovechkin, and Oshie. Those are the only 4 guys that are left, I believe.
They're all gone.
From the championship team. So, and just recently on Wednesday, they let go of Lars Eller, who was a very solid player, I think, for the Capitals for a number of years. And they also got rid of Marcus Johansson, who was in and out, came back after a couple of years. And they're just trading these guys away for second and third round picks. So obviously they're sending a message that they just want to,
clear house. Is
clear
what I'm
house.
seeing in the West.
And they've also signed some younger guys to extension. Jensen got signed to a 3-year extension last night. So a strong message was sent. So this offseason will be interested. I'm interested to see what they do with Oshie and anybody else. I know Ovechkin will obviously stay until he breaks the scoring record, but it'll be interesting.
Crazy. The East has loaded up for this trade deadline for hockey.
In the middle of talking about this, Max Domi just got dealt to the Dallas Stars. So I guess the tank is officially on for the Chicago Blackhawks. They're now racing the Arizona Coyotes, which
I feel like hasn't that tank been on for the last month?
the Coyotes or the Blackhawks?
Both.
No, the Blackhawks had the tank on, and the Coyotes kind of paused the tank amidst all the rumors and sitting Jacob Chikrin for weeks. Speaking of Jacob Chikrin, the return they got for him is far from ideal, but I think it's because you had other big-name defensemen kind of get dealt before that, so the market on Chikrin became very bare for the Coyotes.
Should have just kept him.
I think Bill did the best. Media, I think, before the season said that Chikrin talked to GM Bill Armstrong, and they talked about if this season's going to be too hard on him, they'll definitely continue to consider trading him, and they did just that. The return to the Coyotes was a 2023 first, a 2024 second, and a 2026 second rounder. And the same time, just before that, Shane Gostisbehere got moved to the Carolina Hurricanes, who are my pick to win the Stanley Cup.
Yuck.
I don't think it'll happen. That was for a 2026 third-round pick, and Gostisbehere was fairly vocal about this trade. He talked to the media a couple nights before that, saying that he was just looking forward to having this all be over, and it's hard on family for players to go through this. And frankly, that's the truth, especially when you have a wife and kids that you got to think of more than anything. He credited the Coyotes for saving his career by saying, quote, "I got an opportunity to redeem myself career-wise by coming to Arizona and getting my career back on track. It's something I'll never forget, the Arizona Coyotes and what they did for me to prove to everyone I'm still a good player. Definitely a little bit of validation." They basically got Gostisbehere from the Flyers for a bag of chips and then turned him into a third-round pick from the Canes. So I guess that's the best Bill could do with what he was given. Last night, Bill Armstrong told Craig Morgan of PHNX he was trying to deal Nick Bjugstad, and he did just that. Nick Bjugstad was dealt a little bit before we started recording. So the Coyotes were the most active in the last 2 weeks with trades, making 6 trades in total. It's ridiculous.
That's a lot.
It's hard to believe that that's what's happening. Their next couple 3 years here look like the following. The Coyotes have in the next 3 years 4 first-round picks, 9 second-round picks, 8 third-round picks, 4 fourth and fifth-round picks, and 3 sixth and seventh-round picks before the Nick Bjugstad trade happened today. Bill Armstrong's doing what we talked about last week. He's building for a future, and I think St. Louis is the perfect mark of just how good building for a future can do for you, and hopefully they hit that mark. But
you're going to use all of those picks
on player? Yeah, you have to.
I'm sure they'll
load up the
maybe
minors.
get a trade somehow with a lot of those.
Then they've been talking about
something.
that too. He did really good at the draft last year, trading for players and getting picks. It'll be tough to see. The whole draft is going to be kind of weird with the Blackhawks picking first, maybe, if everything falls their way, which we don't know if it will. So
it reminds me of the Oklahoma City Thunder. I have 20+ picks in the next 6-7 years.
It's going to be a pretty interesting little venture here in the NHL.
Mac, I got a question for you. I had a conversation last night with a Boston Bruins fan, and Boston fans, as we know, they're very loud and
Assholes.
proud about their team.
Shout out Dios.
So he's a Boston Bruins fan, and I was saying like multiple times in the past and through various sports, like the team that's ran through the regular season, like most of the time it doesn't happen that they just win the championship.
Right.
I believe Boston is like 58, somewhere around that clip. And I compared their season to the 2019 Lightning season when they got swept by CBJ in the first round. Who do you think wins the NHL East this season? Because I think it's very competitive, and there's a lot of great teams. And everybody's going to be quick to say, obviously, Boston, because they've just rolled through everybody.
I think if, barring the biggest fuck up we've seen in the history of the NHL, I think Boston's the easy answer. They're just a touch away from 100 points on the season. They're currently sitting at 99, so anything into overtime tonight gets them that 100-point mark. However, you have made a point we have seen before that teams that reach that 100-point mark and rush to be the first team to hit it don't normally pan out well in the playoffs. I think Boston's got a good lineup. Carolina's got a good lineup. New Jersey is sneaky good. Toronto got better at the deadline. The Rangers are good. Tampa Bay's always been good. If I'm looking at the East, I think the easy answer is Patrick Kane and Vladimir Tarasenko and Artemi Panarin and Mika Zibanejad and Adam Fox and Igor Shesterkin on the Rangers. But I think the realistic answer does happen to be the Bruins. I think that's fair.
That'd be a hell of a series.
The thing that I noticed with all those teams that you just named is just like how potent their offenses are.
Totally.
Like they score it seems like 4 goals a game every single game.
Yeah.
And you're right on the Rangers. I would lean the Rangers a little bit just because I think that their defense historically too is just always, they were always a gritty defensive team. And that was the Islanders that played Boston, I think, last year, right? In the playoffs 2 years ago.
Something like that.
But they'll put up a good fight, though, for sure. And I want to see the Leafs end this curse of the first round series for once.
If we're talking about Boston, we should note that they did get better today. They did acquire Tyler Bertuzzi from the Red Wings. Tyler Bertuzzi is a chippy, hard, annoying player. And considering the fact that all they had to give up was a first round and a fourth round pick in the next 2 years, it's a pretty good little deal there. And they got Pasternak back for 8 years, 11.25 AAV. So they're going to pan out to be pretty good over the next couple of years. We'll see how it goes.
I was watching the Flyers-Rangers game before the KD debut, and oh my gosh, was it awful to watch. It looked like when the Dodgers came to town last year when we were super bad. It was so much blue and red in Philly. They just got to sell that team. I just had to put that out there. They haven't sold them yet. They need to.
I will note that was before Patrick Kane made his debut. So Patrick Kane was a healthy scratch, quote unquote, last night for the Rangers after being traded. So it's kind of a little weird. And my mom, I love my mother to death, noted last week that I spent a lot of time talking about Mullet Arena. I don't know if anyone else caught on to that, but I'm very high on Mullet Arena. It's
beautiful.
I saw a tweet today that same thing you're saying, the Flyers are worse off because they were invaded by Rangers fans. It's a commonality here. Whenever you go to any game, Blackhawks, Red Wings.
I knew it was big for Kane, too. A lot of people thought he was going to play, but God, it is just...
He's playing tonight, correct?
Yes, Patrick Kane is playing tonight.
Big game for them tonight. He was the Senators.
He was on ice for morning skate this morning, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
So, and Panarin just looks so happy to have him, which I
reunited.
I hate this. We're gonna move on, so I don't shed any tears amongst my mic or my notebook here in the studio. I'm gonna pass it over to you, Kurt. You've been relatively quiet while we were talking about the NHL, but you're gonna lead us off with a PGA partner, TGL.
The TGL. Alrighty. Well, there's a lot to be said about the TGL so far. There is a big list of pretty much the top golfers in the world at the moment, with, at least a few more, still deciding on what they're doing. But so far, obviously the founders are Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy. And so far signed up is Justin Thomas, Jon Rahm, Colin Morikawa, Matt Fitzpatrick, Max Homa, and the most recent two, Xander Schauffele and Justin Rose, with, other names obviously in the mix there. And I've been reading a few articles here. It looks like, other, top 10 golfers like Scottie Scheffler and, Victor Hovland, that's his name. They're looking to also join the TGL as well.
So when they do, are they done with the PGA?
No, so this is going to be in conjunction with the PGA Tour. Like they're going to schedule it around it. It's going to be every Monday night.
Okay.
And it's going to be, well, the first arena is being built. They actually started construction about 2 weeks ago in Palm Beach, Florida. I think it's going to be like kind of in partnership with the college down there. I think Palm Beach
State College.
Yeah, State College.
Beautiful school.
And yeah, I mean, the biggest questions with this is just, well, mainly one, I think it's a direct hit towards live golf. I think Rory and Tiger were kind of, growing tired of what's going on between the PGA and live. And also, I mean, the biggest question is how the technology is going to be. Because, I mean, this isn't just pure golf. It's going to be kind of a technology hybrid with, I mean, what they say is advanced tech and live action fusion, so...
I like this. I haven't read much about it, but there was like a video that there was kind of like showing the animation of what the thing. It kind of looks like Top Golf, but for like PGA guys in a sense.
It's like like a hole instead of
Yeah.
So it's gonna be like live fans, like plenty of live seating in the arena, and it's gonna be a 15-match regular season with playoffs and a champion as well. So.
They are limited
interesting.
to 2-hour matches. Those 15 regular season matches. The players will be mic'd up in front of a live audience on television. It's going to be interesting to see, and I thought that was pretty odd, weird, off-putting that they were partnering with the PGA. When the Live announced its creation, the first thing the PGA said, if you decide you want to go play for the Live, kiss your PGA career goodbye, and they took tour cards away from players that wanted to go play in Live. Live paid these astronomical contracts that these players were so excited to take, and they did it. So I'm sure when this was announced, the PGA is like, well, since Tiger's doing it, we're going to keep him around. So, I think it's good for the game. If anything, it grows. It's technological. It's fun to watch. It's exciting. Hopefully,
more competition.
More competition.
Who doesn't love more golf?
And a little bit more money.
How can you not love golf in South Florida? Like, can't beat that.
But in an arena, stadium, we'll call it.
I got a question for all you guys. When the time comes, are you watching Monday Night Football or Monday Night Golf?
I
Hopefully they get those TV times
will tell you
right.
it's January that this will be going on in, so it shouldn't overlap. The debut's in January 2024, so it shouldn't overlap with the NFL at all.
Yeah, it'll probably be playoff time.
It'll be the end of the season. They're not going to have Monday night
Maybe
games.
1 week, maybe week 18, Monday Night Football.
And if it's Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy or Washington and the
Colts.
Dolphins, I'm definitely
That wouldn't be a
watch
Monday
golf.
night game, I think.
Definitely going to watch golf.
Yeah, there was some. I mean,
Man,
What if it's a Bears game?
They don't give
I'm
us Monday
definitely
night
watching golf.
games. We don't get Monday night
I'm
games.
pretty sure 2022 was the biggest issue with primetime games. I mean, there was Broncos games. I mean, they had what?
The first 3 weeks of Thursday Night Football
Yeah.
should not have existed.
Thursday and Mondays were horrible.
I don't know what that was. I don't know what they
Awful.
thought they were doing.
Amazon should have given out free subscriptions.
They thought Russ was going to be that guy.
It's just funny
Who
because
let him cook?
They ruined the NFL. Like, no, the big thing was, Kirk Herbstreit and Al Michaels are coming back to call. It just was horrible.
They're kind of forced to because every single team has to have a Thursday night game. So it's like they have these atrocious divisional matchups. Like I remember one of them. What was it? Panthers Falcons in a rainstorm. It was like 12-10 final. So
At least they started with the boring ones, and they kind of
they got a little better.
got better at the end of the season. I don't know if that's
What's
happened.
funny is I guess at the beginning they had no idea the Broncos were going to be what they were last year. So I guess there's that.
They gave him like 5 primetime games in the first 7 weeks.
All I
that
heard,
Russ
all
was
I
gonna
saw on
cook.
social media was stop fucking giving them primetime games. This is
Yeah,
killing
it
us.
was rough.
Yeah, we're gonna pivot now into the NFL. It's kind of handy that you led with that, so thank you, Preston. I don't think you noticed that you did that.
I did it on purpose, of course.
Oh, you go. The NFLPA Player Survey Results recently surfaced. This was something that 1,300 players provided
Got all their teams
information
up there.
to share
Wow.
with one another about their current club to not only help them make important career decisions, but also raise standards across the leagues. This was an 8-question survey based upon 8 core categories, which involved the following. We got number 1 was treatment of families. Number 2 was nutrition/food service. Number 3 was the weight room. 4 was the strength staff. 5 was the training room. 6 was the training staff. 7 being the locker room, and 8 being travel. Our favorite teams
So just basic necessities that you get as an NFL player.
Pretty much. Our favorite teams ranked the following ways. The Commanders, Chance, landed last in the league, 32nd overall.
Shocking.
The Arizona
Shocking.
Cardinals
Wow.
landed 31st overall.
We can hold hands together with treating our players like trash.
Don't get me started on this franchise.
Sell
this
the team.
owner. We'll just get through what you got to get through, and I'll let myself talk about this.
The Arizona Cardinals landed 31st overall. The Philadelphia
Bidwell
Eagles
family
were
for that one.
14th, and the Chicago Bears were number 13. Number 1 overall. Does anybody know who it was?
Wasn't it
Number 1, the
Dolphins.
Bills.
Panthers?
That's my guess.
Dolphins.
Vikings.
It was the Minnesota Vikings.
That's what it was.
Wow,
Yeah.
really?
Across
Whoever has the newest facilities, it's got to
the
be up
new
there.
stadium.
We're going to kind of break
Yeah.
down how this went. I'm going to start with Minnesota. Minnesota, categories 1 through 8, treatment of families, A, food service nutrition, A-, weight room, A, strength coaches, A+, training room, A+, training staff, A+, locker room, A+, team travel, A.
So they treat their players very well.
Like they're kings. pretty
Long
much.
story short.
Yeah. The Bears, in their 8 categories, ranked the
All for what, a
following.
one and done.
Treatment
out
of
in the
families,
playoffs?
C-, food service and nutrition, D+, weight room, A, strength coaches, A-,
Slow down,
training
James.
room, A+, training staff, A-, locker room, A, and team travel, C-.
This was for who?
The
Dude,
Bears.
that's like the 2 most important
Which-
ones are at C-.
Which Soldier Field is one of the oldest stadiums in the NFL.
Just wait.
horrible.
Just wait till you see how many Fs we have in our report card. F minus is to be correct.
Well, I think the most important
And
here
the
are
Cardinals.
treatment of family and travel, I guess. I mean, facilities are very important.
You know what's great about
but-
that? I'll start. I'll go to you now. Treatment of families, Washington, F. Food service nutrition, D+. Weight room, C+. Strength coaches, A+.
Oh,
Hey,
That was a
strong.
common answer. A lot of people
Chase
were
Young.
saying A+.
Deron Payne.
Chase Young.
Yeah. Training room, F-. Training staff, D. Locker room, F-. Team travel, F-. That is 1, 2, 3, 4 Fs.
Not only Fs.
Read me them
F
Eagles and
minus.
Cardinals.
Does
Yeah,
anybody
I heard
care?
in the Reds, or no, they're not the Redskins anymore. They're the Commanders.
Yeah.
That like
Come on.
in the weight room, the floors are like cracked and stuff. It's just not safe.
Here's my spiel on the Washington football team, aka the Commanders, aka the Redskins. I've been a fan of this team my whole life. It is embarrassing. Dan Snyder is the worst owner in all of sports in my
Criminal.
he honestly is the walking scum of the earth, and I'm not ashamed to say that, because you know it's bad when Washington D.C. has a parade planned for a team getting sold. I don't remember the last time that's ever happened. And just last night, just to add on,
Browns did it.
just to add on to his misery as an owner, he just took out a casual $55 million without letting any of the minority
how about
owners
that?
know about that.
How about that?
Tad bit illegal.
He's not letting Jeff Bezos bid on the team, which is unfortunate, because Jeff Bezos was going to bring in Jay-Z and Matthew McConaughey, who was a diehard Washington fan.
All right.
It's just atrocious. I mean, we've had 27 quarterbacks in 23 years now. No one likes him. He's been publicly called out by the Indianapolis Colts owner and other owners. He's in a trial right now with the Attorney General of Washington, D.C. with Roger Goodell, if you guys did not know that.
He's just a bad dude.
Horrible person.
He's a horrible person, and it's embarrassing, because Washington in the 80s and 90s was one of the greatest franchises. It was when I told people that I'm a Washington fan, they're like, wow, like you guys in the 80s or 90s were great, the Hog days. You guys won 3 championships in 7 years or whatever with Gibbs and
Sean Taylor.
You know, it's embarrassing. And I mean, I've stuck through it, and there's a little hope at the light at the end of the tunnel, maybe this season, getting Eric Bieniemy, you know, maybe Ron's last chance. But until ownership improves, like nothing's going to improve. Like it's terrible.
That's where it starts.
It's embarrassing.
It starts at
It starts up on top, and it goes on from
it
there.
trickles
So
down the tree, for sure.
there's a lot more that I could say, but you know, I won't get into
Preston
it.
brought up the weight room in Washington.
Yeah.
It was ranked a C+, and the only report was that it was too small.
I was talking about the Cardinals.
Yes. The
Someone-
Cardinals carried 5 Fs on their report.
That's crazy.
5.
Just on the weight room?
No, 5 Fs on. So Washington had 4, the Cardinals had 5, but they were ranked higher in terms of.
So did all the
Just a
players
little
get
bit better.
surveyed?
It was 1,300 players in the NFL.
Just about all of them.
So the Cardinals, who ranked 31st, treatment of families, F. Food service, nutrition, F minus. You are charged, it says in here, for your meals. If you don't pay, they take it out of your payroll.
That's insane.
That's what I'm saying. Weight room, F minus.
You have to pay to work out in the off season as well.
Strength coaches again,
That's
an
literally
A. Training room, F minus. Training staff, B plus. Locker room, F. Team travel, B plus. Michael Bidwell called the claims inaccurate. He denied what was being told to him by his players, to the league by his players. My favorite thing about this, and the most, I think, pretentious thing about all of this, is the positives for the Arizona Cardinals team plane, who I believe are one of the few teams to carry a team plane in the NFL, ranking it at a B+. The two positives listed are there are no roommates and there's a lot of first-class seats. Only 48% of players feel like they have enough room to spread out. But the pretentious part is that, quote, players reported that in previous years the team used a large plane so that all players had lay-down seats. This past season, the club switched to a, quote, smaller plane, which limited the number of lay-down seats, so many players have worse seats and less space now.
Had to pay Kyler.
I wonder if
There goes the plane.
if the people with higher contracts get better seats on the plane.
No, I think
I would think so.
The rookies get the shitty seats.
Yeah, I'm
and
sure.
So
the-
Maybe
that's
that
how
would
it
make
works.
sense.
Like
Vets get the
usually in the
good
NBA, that's how it works. They'll put
Yeah.
the rookies in the back, and the vets sit up front of the nicer seats.
They
But
give the people that they're paying the more money the better seat, because if the plane goes down, you don't care about the rookies in row 37. You care about Kyler Murray in
the plane
row
goes
2.
down.
Get him a
That's all.
parachute.
Well, what if
Yeah.
what if
Kid-sized
the
parachute.
Kyler Murray doesn't need a parachute. Just take off his shirt.
He's used to parachutes, playing a lot of COD and
In
jumping off
Warzone
the
right
plane
now.
in Warzone. So he knows the thing.
Where we landed, boys?
feel bad for Will Anderson? Hopefully he's a Cardinal.
Oh,
Moving into the 14th ranked Eagles.
How about them
Families,
Eagles?
B minus. Food service, A. Weight room, A minus. Strength coaches, A plus. Training room, C minus. Training staff, A plus.
So your
Locker
staff is really good.
Locker room, C plus. Team travel, D. So not as bad as it could
I
have
went
been.
to the NovaCare complex. That's where they do the practices and training. I can
Yeah.
see all that because it's a little outdated, but they always keep it kind of modern. And
Gotta have that Philly
staff
charm.
the staff was really
It's culture.
surprisingly.
Have you walked around
amazing.
Philly? It's all
The-
old.
Historic, you know.
The thing is that I'm
It's a
finding
culture
here,
city.
Washington,
City of brotherly love.
their locker room was an F minus. They're an older franchise. The Cardinals' locker room was an F. It's just plain outdated. It needs to be updated. The Eagles' locker room was a C plus. They are an older franchise.
It's nice.
However, the Bears received an A for the locker room, but they did just do a huge overhaul at Soldier Field, which is part of why that is. Talking about Justin Fields and the Bears, Mayor Lori Lightfoot is out in Chicago, which means the chances of receiving a dome are higher. Remember,
Justin Fields has a big smile on his face.
they just bought the land at the Arlington Heights horse racing track, which is where they're planning on building a new stadium, if not doing repairs / alterations to Soldier Field. Speaking of Justin Fields, head coach Matt Eberflus has been quoted to say he likes Justin Fields, and GM Ryan Poles has said Justin Fields will be QB1 in 2023. And per Adam Hoge, Ryan Poles has not received any questions on Fields' availability come the trade time for the draft. So it looks like they are going to believe in Justin Fields, and I think they should. I think that's a great move. Two quotes that have come up from Combine Week in the NFL, which is where we are now, is KJ Henry, Clemson defensive end, said he was, quote, a modern-day Mike Vick. Hopefully that is without the dogfighting. That would be perfect. And
Wow.
Ohio State cornerback.
That's insane.
He was an
prospect
Eagle at the
Cam
time.
Brown says, quote, the Bears believe in Justin. He's a great player. That would be a mistake. Trading him would be he needs. And then he breaks, and a reporter pipes up and says, you can say it. He needs help. We all know.
I think you can tell a trend of multiple guys are saying this. Like, guys like Justin Fields, they like what they see, what he did this past season, and like they want to see him succeed. So obviously people are standing behind him and being like, hey, like this guy can be that guy.
I think for good reason.
Yeah,
What pick did they
rightfully
have?
so. I mean, he balled out last season. Like, let's just
One.
be honest.
Oh,
Like,
they have one?
Yeah.
Oh,
Remember, we talked last week about the Panthers at 9 trading for it.
Want to talk about Jalen Carter?
yeah.
We could talk about Jalen Carter. Yeah.
See,
That's
it's
Can
just
someone break that down? I don't know all the
the
specifics.
Bears
Can anyone break
just
that down?
need
Yeah.
to get Justin Fields a weapon. Their best receiver
Jackson
over the
Smith and
past
Jigba.
5 years has been Darnell Mooney.
Jackson Smith.
Yeah, I don't
and
even
Jigba.
know why they're questioning
forget-
Fields isn't
going
going to
with him or not.
succeed.
Don't forget
Mitch
Chase
isn't going to
Claypool.
succeed. And Velas Jones. I mean, that was a wild
I think-
draft pick.
I think what
It's a
what I'm
project
most
pick.
looking forward to is the fact that the draft provides a chance for the Bears to do something They have not had a chance.
I love
to
exactly
do.
what you said. Trade down for Jackson
Take
Smith
Jackson
and Jigba
Smith
and
and
reunite
Jigba
him
on
with
your
Justin.
offense.
That'd be.
If you
that's
can
exactly
package
what
the
I
number
say.
one overall pick with a high pick in the first round and then a later pick in the first round that's still sub, I think, 20, you get the defensive end you want, the edge rusher you want, and you get Jackson Smith and Jigba. You got Justin Fields set for life, man. Like that's
Eagles are at 10.
it's a great combo. Yeah, but they don't have a top 5 pick.
Give Eagles number 1.
So they would have to do a little bit of maneuver.
So with this whole Jalen Carter stuff going out, do you still want to keep your pick, Mr. Bears fan?
walk me through what happened with Jalen Carter.
So,
So-
you go.
Yeah, I'm just looking right here. So this happened January 15th. So almost 2 months ago, this situation happened. So it says that on CBS NFL, CBS Sports says that he was involved in a fatal single car crash that killed Georgia football player and recruiting analyst, making his future more murky. I know last night he was
Drag racing, right?
I believe so. He just booked the scene. He just didn't want to do anything about it. I believe last night it said 11:44. He was arrested on a $4,000 bond in his pro day shirt. Then
That's ironic.
Then was released, and then he was at the combine this morning, partaking in a couple drills. So yeah, this is a top 5 player in the draft this year. Arguably, could be the first pick, depending on who lands there. It's very interesting, and it's probably the worst time you could have, especially for a story that's almost 2 months old. It's funny how it comes out at this time.
And I said in the group chat, if you can't stay out of trouble in Georgia at college, are you really going to stay out of trouble in Chicago? I don't think so.
Hey, what are you trying to say about Chi-Town, buddy?
It's a fair question.
I'm not trying to throw any shade at Chicago. It's a great city, but it also has its history of
Back off.
of stuff. Michael Jordan.
There is some parts in Chicago.
What? What'd you say?
I didn't say anything.
What did you say?
I didn't say anything.
Oh my God, he's a wuss.
Michael Jordan.
Oh, yeah. Well, MJ was different.
I'm more of a Rodman guy.
So what's funny about what's funny about this situation, and I'm comparing it to the Brandon Miller situation in a sense. So Brandon Miller, obviously, situation he gave someone a gun, not knowing that it would lead to a murder. That situation obviously has blown over. He's going to be a top 3 pick in the draft, probably the 3rd pick behind Scoot and Wembanyama. Same situation. This is a top 5 pick. Brandon Miller's a top 5 pick, but I'm interested to see how if this story just gets blown over because it's like, oh, he's a top player. He's at the combine. Let's give him some space or whatever. I don't know. It's interesting. And no one from Georgia, I don't really think, has spoken out about this. Like, I'm surprised Kirby Smart has not come out and defended him in any way.
I think Georgia's PR people are keeping him quiet. I think.
Yeah, so I think it's smart, honestly. And Brandon Miller stayed pretty quiet as well. NATO, it's kind of the talking for them. So
and Brandon Miller's only
interesting.
played better since the allegations.
Yeah, he dropped 41 the next
the day
game.
after.
41 in college is crazy.
Yeah, on the road as well, which is very impressive.
Kind of backing off of Michael Jordan here, we're going to stick with Chicago sports where we're going to move into the MLB. The Diamondbacks and Cubs game on Monday the 27th was just over 2 hours long.
It was a very quick watch.
It ended in a 3-1 walk-off home run,
Emmanuel Rivera.
and that was crazy. Just before that, however, there was a balk issued. It was a regular good old balk that advanced the runners.
Yeah, with Mantiply, right?
Was it Mantiply? or was it
Mantiply
someone
and
else?
Brendan Davis.
No, that was different. That was earlier in the game. We are going to talk about that.
Okay.
What he's referencing is Joe Mantiply and Brendan Davis both had a minute and a half to get ready, and neither was ready in that minute and a half time. So before any pitch was even thrown, both sides received an infraction. It was a 1-1 count.
Yeah. So Mantiply didn't get his 8 warm-up pitches off in time.
Correct. Basically, what we're going to talk about is how the rules are affecting spring training games. There has been one major ending of a game due to the new rules. That's the Braves and the Boston Red Sox.
I was, believe it or not, watching that live.
6-6.
I was so upset.
Bottom of the ninth, 3-2 count, bases loaded, 2 outs. Cal Conley violated the pitch clock, gets rung up, and the game ends tied at 6 on strikes. In big games this season, I think it's important to talk about the fact that there's 2 rules I think that are going to affect the game, and one of them is, upon talking to some people, the disengagement rules in the MLB this year are as follows. A batter has 2 disengagements per at-bat, and a pitcher also has 2 disengagements. However, if a runner advances a base, the pitcher gets his 2 disengagements back, meaning he can step off 2 more times. That rule I think is going to come back to bite him in the ass because I think that a pitcher or a batter in a big game with stress on their shoulders is going to use their 2 step backs or their 2 step outs or step offs, and it's going to cost someone a balk or a strike or a ball that's going to end a game that shouldn't end like that. The question is, should baseball games be allowed to end because of infractions on new rules, or should there be a different way they dictate how games are going to end in this upcoming season?
No, they should not.
I agree.
Because you imagine it's a World Series game and a game ends in a you weren't in the box in time or something like
Took
that.
a warm-up swing. The game's over.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
You decided to readjust your batting gloves. You're out. Like stuff like that.
I do agree. I saw a clip from yesterday. It was Carlos Correa in the first inning, and like he's a guy that takes his time, like wants to be perfectly in the box, a veteran hitter, obviously. And the announcers, he was halfway taking a stroll out, and the announcers are like, "Oh, you can't do that," and he like just came racing back in the box. I don't need 5 seconds.
He remembered.
already.
Oh, I can't do that anymore, and then he struck out.
Yeah.
I think the rule changes are going to play a really big part in the league this year, and I think for good reason they should. I think the speed of the game is something that, again, a lot of people have complained about. It was an issue. You shouldn't be sitting at a baseball park for 3.25 hours.
That's the whole big issue with people not watching baseball, is how long it is and how boring it is. And this is speeding it up, and they're still scoring a lot of runs every game.
That was a 12-run game they scored.
They're still scoring,
The-
so it's still going to be.
And that D-backs Cubs game was a pitcher's duel, so that's why it
Yes,
ended so quickly.
but Dansby Swanson, Nico Horner, and Eric Hosmer all started that game, and all of them went, I think, 0 for 2 or 0 for 3. So it was a very interesting game, that one. I had fun watching it. The MLB this year, one other thing that I think is really fun in the spring training, I don't know if anyone saw it, the Pirates and the Orioles ended a game. The Pirates won the game, top of the 9th inning, 7-4. They threw the last out. However, the Pirates still wanted a chance to hit, so they both agreed to do it. They played good old baseball without any umpires.
Love that.
I love this. Love the idea of that.
the Sandlot days.
How can you not love that? I mean, the umpires left.
It shows guys want to play that bad.
Yeah,
it does.
The game was over.
They
Like,
catch your
yeah.
Well, some of
balls,
some of those guys, that's all they get. For the
exactly,
year.
and that's what I love about
literally-
it. Like, it's great.
Reminds you of the T-Rex days, right, Kurt? The catcher calls the balls and strikes.
Oh, I miss and sometimes don't miss those days.
I'm
Honestly.
with
And I love how the fans stuck around too. Like it was pretty cool to watch.
Some of them did leave. I did see that
Yeah.
some of them. I feel like they did kind of come back. That's got to be a cool experience. You pay all that money for a ticket, and you're like, oh, the Orioles lost, and you're like, oh, they're playing another inning just for the heck of it.
And they probably took their own time too. I mean,
Yeah, they did not use the pitch clock. From what I'm understanding.
Yeah.
the
So it
slowest
was-
9th inning of spring training, probably.
Yeah, the slowest bottom half of the 9th inning in spring training. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I think the MLB this year is going to be something that is talked about a lot, and I think these
a
rule
lot of new
changes.
stuff.
I just don't think that you should be able to start a count 1-1 without one pitch being thrown, which is what happened.
Yeah, that's a little
That's
iffy.
But then the question is, does that strikeout go on the pitcher's record, or does that strikeout count for a pitch, or does
A little
it just,
asterisk, a little.
Yeah,
little thing,
right.
you know.
How are we going to decipher
I think
this?
they need to tweak some of these rules. I'm not saying get rid of them. Saying
I
just make
did-
some configuration.
Yeah.
I think we came into this season with the idea that none of this would be perfect. I think that's what we should really understand first off, and first before we do anything else, is that none of this has been fine-tuned up to this point. No one has any idea how any of this shit is going to work.
And I feel like these guys who are making $100 million plus, some of them are going to complain about it.
And a non-salary cap age too.
Yes.
Remember that.
Because at the end of the day, they're just trying to make the game more, palatable for the younger generation. I guess.
More viewers, more money, more.
So then,
Manfred works.
if you're in a postseason game, and the game has an infraction in the 9th inning that should end the game, what should happen instead?
It reminds me of like
know.
I think about this all the time. It was the 2021 or 2022 matchup with the Dodgers and the Giants, and that series ended on a check swing.
That wasn't a strike.
It was not a strike, but it reminds me of the same thing. It's like if you're gonna end the game on a check swing in a Game 5 to go to the championship series, it's kind of similar of like
And one of the most competitive series too. I think.
one of the
that
biggest,
Giants Dodgers,
maybe the
series
biggest
was
rival behind Red Sox and Yankees.
probably the best series I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
It's the rules are, like I said, it's going to be crazy to watch this season. I've had a lot of fun watching baseball up to this point. I think if you're spending less than 2.5 hours at the ballpark, everyone kind of gets a little bump out of that. I think that's good for everybody.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, but at some point, it's just gonna affect the players too much because, a lot of these guys are used to going up there taking way too much time, honestly. But that's their own time to get ready because a lot of
imagine if Nomar Garciaparra was still in the league.
yeah, so much. Each guys remember. Suzuki was famous for having
You remember
little
Pedro Baez?
pregame,
took 40 seconds.
Yeah.
to
I saw
pitch.
something the other day. Yeah, it was, in the time that it took him to throw like 3 pitches, they played a whole half inning of baseball.
Is that the Dodgers pitcher?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
and
think
especially in the
so.
playoffs, it
Yeah.
was bad. I remember they put the Nationals in 2019,
Oh.
18 or 19.
Yeah.
He literally would take so long.
Like
the game
over
would,
40 seconds
yeah.
between each pitch. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
They outlawed Nestor Cortez's wonky windup
and the Astros.
the human rain delay.
Luis Garcia.
Thank
Garcia,
you,
yeah,
Luis
welcome.
Garcia.
Mm,
Bottom line is, we
the
thank
baby.
you very much for listening to episode 2 of the Wildcard Podcast on Spotify. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Apple soon, Spotify for sure right now. For Preston Grace, Jason Cousineau, Kurt Arnold, and Chancellor Blanc, my name is James Mackey signing off from the OnWeb Studios in Phoenix, Arizona. We look forward to seeing you next episode.
Deuces.
You've been listening to the Wildcard Podcast. Download and subscribe today on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more.